Ich bin selber überrascht, wie viele Brillenbrands es gibt und wie viele ich davon nicht kannte. Wenn ihr Brille sucht, die 200 Euro kostet, aber aussieht wie eine 600 Euro Brille, jetzt habt ihr einen Geheimtipp. Meine allerbesten Mollgeschmack von der Welcome back auf Andy und Klö Fashion. Heute haben wir ein sehr wichtiges und spannendes Video, weil heute reacten wir auf ein Video von einem Experten im Bereich Brillen, der eine Tierlist kreiert hat über alle Brillenbrands im, ich glaube, Sonnenbrillen und normalen Brillensegment. Und ich wollte darauf mal reagieren, weil ich bin selber ein Brillenträger und ich selber habe so meine 5, 6, 7, 8 Brands, die ich halt sehr feiere und gerne trage. Aber da muss ich sagen, ich lerne immer gerne was Neues dazu und ich denke, auch ihr könnt was heute lernen von dem Video. Deswegen ganz kurz Like und Abo für mehr solche Reaction und ich würde sagen, wir steigen direkt rein. Das Video heißt eben Brillenrangliste von The Spectacle Factory. Erstmal abonnieren, erstmal Respekt widmen und wir gehen rein. Ich bin sehr gespannt auf das Video.
More options than ever before when it comes to your glasses.
Das ist der Mann.
So which one should you buy? Well, today you're about to find.
Das Problem ist halt, by the way, bevor das Video startet, die Brillenindustrie ist eine sehr gegatekeepte Industrie, weil es gibt ein paar sehr, sehr große Big Player und das Problem ist halt, ja, es gibt eine sehr große Marge drauf und sehr viel läuft über Branding. Also viele Leute, die kaufen sich Brillen wegen einer Brand, Balenciaga, Tom Ford, Gucci, aber zahlen wirklich nur für die Brand. Aber andere Brands, es gibt wirklich Brands, die eine sehr hohe Qualität haben, Made in Japan, dies, das, Ananas. Aber ja, ich werde auf jeden Fall
now, which glasses are class and which glasses are trash? So hi, I'm Robert, Style and Vision Consultant here at the Spectacle Factory, and it's my job to pair you with your perfect pair of glasses. In this video, we're going to be ranking as many frame brands as I can think of in terms of quality, style and innovation. So we've got more brands than...
Ich finde es auch cool, muss ich sagen, dass der Typ so diese Nische bedient, also diese Brillenträger-Nische, weil man muss schon sagen, schreibt mir gerne in die Kommentare, trägt der eine Brille, also ob jetzt zum Autofahren oder generell im normalen Alltag, weil ich selber bin ein Brillenträger, also ich habe minus 1,75, minus 2, irgendwie so und muss sagen, ich habe halt, ich wollte schon, also einer meiner Träume war immer mal eine Operation zu machen auf meine Augen, aber auch da muss ich sagen, ich hatte immer ein bisschen Angst, weil am Ende des Tages, ich hab viel zu verlieren, wenn ich blind werde und ja, deswegen schreibt mir gerne in die Kommentare, tragt ihr eine Brille oder tragt ihr nur Sonnenbrillen aus ästhetischen Gründen? Ja, würde mich interessieren.
Ever to cover today, let's get into it. Let's start with RLM, it seems like a good place.
Okay, ihr seht, Eyewear Brands, also es sind viele Brands. Legendary, Would Buy, Maybe, Avoid, Luxottica. Luxottica, für die Leute, die nicht wissen, das ist so eins der größten so, ja, Brillen-Titanen. Also die haben sehr viele Brands, also viele Lizenzen von Brands. Wir reden hier von Gucci, wir reden hier von Balenciaga. Und deswegen, ja, ist das halt schon so Bottomline. Aber ich glaube, wird auch jetzt lernen.
Beautiful brand. I think they make personally the most stylish.
Was hat er gesagt?
With RLM, it seems like a good place to start.
RLM, was ist das für eine Brand? Also ich kenne auch viele Brands hier gar nicht. Also ich werde auch was dazu
Beautiful
lernen.
brand. I think they make personally the most stylish glasses in the world. That is high praise because there are a lot of cool brands out there. But RLM, for me, whether you get the metal frames or their acetates, are just exceptional. They're a relatively new brand. They've been around for around 10 years and they were founded by RLM herself, who has a lot of experience.
Okay. Ich kenn die Brand gar nicht.
In the fashion world.
Schreibt mir auch gerne in die Kommentare, was eure Lieblingsbrillenbrand. Also tragt ihr einfach Brille vielmal oder habt ihr irgendeine Nischenbrand, die ihr so bevorzugt?
But glasses aren't just stylish, they are...
Ich bin halt großer Fan von Jacques-Marie March, also trage ich halt selber viel, auch wenn die oft sehr schwer sind für meine Nase, also ich habe oft Abdruck davon, oder halt eben so, ich trage gerne Kubo Raum, habe ich jetzt eine neue Brille, oder auch so Chrome Hearts, auch Top-Brillen, muss ich sagen, aber auch gibt es so kleinere Brands, die ich halt feiere. Auch so Mikita feiere ich sehr, aber auch zum Beispiel Bottega Veneta, sehr coole Brillen aus
also
Made in
great
Japan.
quality with beautiful embellishments. Are they in Legendary? I think RLM is comfortably in the would buy category.
Okay,
Next
RLM.
up, Lunor. So Lunor is a much older German eyewear brand. They make
Boah, das ist auch wie so eine richtig stabile Operbrille.
extremely classic styles. I'm talking, very safe, very understated. You could say quiet luxury, but I don't think they are at the top level when it comes to actual quality. Steve Jobs was the famous wearer of
Krass. Das ist krass, wusste ich nicht.
Lunor with his rimless. That was iconic for him. Lunor is a maybe because even though I think I would buy it from a quality perspective, stylistically it doesn't really do anything for me. Cutler & Gross is the
Cutler & Gross,
opposite way around. Cutler & Gross are very stylish. They're a British eyewear brand. I think founded in the 70s.
Ja, die Brand kenne ich auch. Die hat echt coole Brillen, also sehr stylish.
So pretty historic. Over the years have been one of the coolest eyewear brands, there's no doubt about that. The quality leaves just a little bit to be desired, and I don't mean that to be harsh because they're not bad by any means. They're not quite the quality level that I would say you should buy them. So maybe. Oakley.
Ich check, was er meint. Ja, also generell, man sieht hier, das Coole ist halt, die Brillennische ist sehr groß, weil wirklich viele Leute müssen zum einen Brillen tragen und zum anderen, bei Brillen würde ich auch nicht sparen, weil wenn du wirklich eine Brille tragen musst, dann trägst du sie jeden Tag im schlimmsten Fall. Und da musst du halt schon eine Brille haben, die dir gut passt, die dir auch sitzen, alles. Da gibt es schon ein paar Faktoren, die wichtig sind, muss ich sagen.
Could this be our first entry into the Luxottica category? If you're wondering why there's a category at the bottom called Luxottica, let me give you a little bit of a history lesson. So Luxottica is an Italian
giant
behemoth. If you think of some of the biggest companies in the world, I mean multi-billion-dollar companies, Luxottica is in that category. But you probably haven't heard of them. And I find that a little bit pernicious because they're actually the company that controls our industry. And why do I say that? Well, not only do Luxottica own the licenses for
ja, seht ihr, das meine ich halt. All diese Brands gehören halt zu Luxottica. Also die haben die Lizenzen, also zum Beispiel eine Brand wie Chanel. Chanel ist eine unglaublich kranke Brand. Also Chanel auch historisch gesehen macht Milliarden Revenues im Jahr. Das hat auch einen Brandwert von über 1 Milliarde. Aber die haben die Lizenz für die Brille verkauft, weil sie einfach nicht selber machen wollen oder können schon, aber einfach nicht wollen, denke ich. Oder einfach zu früh verkauft.
Thousands of fashion brands that you think are probably made by the brands themselves, but they also own the retailers that sell them, a lot of the online retailers.
Eigentlich schon krass, was die für ein Portfolio haben. Unglaublich. Also auch so Brunello Cucinelli bin ich überrascht, dass sie die haben. Ja, krass. Muss ich echt sagen. Also wenn du so ein Portfolio hast, dann machst du Money. Das ist Money.
So it's not just physical stores either. And in the US, they own the insurance companies that drive you to where you should go to buy your glasses. What that means is you can go into certain stores and only see Luxottica products and think you have a lot of choice.
Ist krass, also das muss ich echt sagen.
Does that inherently make them bad? No, but for me, because they're the only company doing things that way, for me means that I wouldn't consider a Luxottica product personally. You might. There is varying levels. Also
Luxottica, ich sage auch nicht, dass alle Luxottica-Brands schlecht sind, aber das wäre jetzt keine, ich sag mal so, da zahlst du halt sehr viel für eine sehr average Qualität. Und klar, vom Design her, zum Beispiel Balenciaga hat auch sehr coole Brillen und die gehören, glaube ich, auch zu der Gruppe. Oder generell gehören zu einer anderen Gruppe halt, aber ja, finde ich halt, ist auch nicht schlecht. Also, wenn mir das Design gefällt, dann kann ich sie schon kaufen.
Levels of quality within the Luxottica category, and Oakley are somewhere in the middle. But if you want sports glasses, you should consider Oakleys. They are one of the best sports brands in my opinion.
Ja, das stimmt.
But in terms of the actual glasses, honestly.
Aber die alten Oakleys, also die OG Oakleys, reden wir 90er, 2000er Jahre, die haben eine bessere Qualität. Also die sind echt, du kannst echt ein paar Vintage Oakleys finden mit einer kranken Qualität, die heute noch fresh aussehen.
To the trash. So I'm going to put these in the Luxottica tier, but that doesn't mean you should never buy them, because if you want glasses for cycling, they're in the top tier, I would say. JFRay, my favorite eyewear brand. Why do I love JFRay? Well, Jean-François Ray, for me, is the most creative eyewear designer of all time. And he's not just creative when it comes to shapes. He's not just creative when it comes to materials. And he's not just creative when it comes to color. He's actually creative when it comes to all of those elements. And that means that his glasses are unlike any others. However, the thing that separates Jean-François Ray, or the JFRay brand, from other similar brands that are also kind of cool and quirky, is that JFRay are super wearable. For the most part, you can pick any JFRay.
Ich muss halt sagen, ich habe jetzt nicht so viele so Brillen, die so filigran sind, und ich finde auch eher, das ist schon sehr erwachsen oft vom Look, oder bei Frauen kommt schon clean, aber muss ich sagen, ist einfach nicht, noch nicht meine Ecke, wo ich so tief drin bin.
Frame, and it will be unlike any glasses you've seen before, but still something you can wear every day and not look weird. I love JFRay for that reason. For me, one of the brands that really made me fall in love with glasses, and they're easily in the legendary tier. They've been going since the 80s, and they're still pushing the boundaries today. Meanwhile, Serengeti, they were good, and they still are pretty good.
Kenn ich auch nicht.
Are they the pinnacle of sunglasses like they were 10 years ago? In my opinion, no. I'm going to put them in the maybe tier because some of their
ja, sehen sehr, sehr klassisch aus, also rein vom Design her.
Photochromic lenses are
so eine Brille, die man auf Brad Pitt sehen würde.
And if you're shopping for sunglasses, you should definitely consider Serengeti. This one's about to be controversial. Dita. Dita is one of the luxury eyewear brands. What I mean by that is...
Von der habe ich schon mal gehört. Dieter habe ich schon mal gehört.
It's one of the biggest. If people are looking for luxury independent brands, so companies that only produce glasses, Dieter is one of the most popular in that space. For the most part, pretty good quality. But the problem with Dieter products, in my experience, is you get a lot of variation. Just last week, I was working on a Dieter frame. It was a rimless mount, so putting a screw through the lens into the frame, and there was a joint that held that screw into place, and that just snapped off. And I was working on it myself, so I can tell you, easily snapped off. That's not the kind of quality that I would expect from a luxury eyewear brand. My other issue with Dieter is that it's very derivative of Cazal, which is one of my personal loves.
Krass eigentlich. Interessant, ja. Also Cazal ist auch eine Brand, jetzt zum Beispiel, ich war ja bei Ron Bilecki letztens zu Hause, der hat auch eine Cazal-Brille. Ist halt rein vom Design gar nicht meins.
And Cazal did it way before Dieter. Now they do have some of their own pieces that are quite novel. For me, I would avoid Dieter. I think if you want luxury Japanese eyewear, I mean, Dieter aren't even a Japanese brand, they're an American brand, having their glasses produced in Japan. That doesn't make them bad, but if you want top-class Japanese eyewear, I would look elsewhere, personally. Makita. So Makita is a cool brand from Germany.
Für mich Makita super Brand, feiere ich übertrieben. Echt geile
great quality titanium frames. Now, I wouldn't buy Makita because of another brand.
Muss man sagen, bei Makita auch, die haben so geile, so übertrieben leichte Frames, also die sind ultra leicht. Also finde ich so cool, die Brand.
We're going to talk about later, which does titanium frames, but just better. But I would maybe consider them because some of their styles, like the new Rimowa collection that I've been really impressed with, some of their styles are really original and really cool, very futuristic. From a stylistic perspective, great, but if you want top-class minimalistic titanium eyewear, I would look at another brand. Moscot, one of the oldest eyewear brands on the planet.
Ja. Moscot, sehr coole Familiengeschichte, leider halt von der Qualität halt nicht mehr so krass. Also eigentlich sehr teuer, für was man bekommt. Aber halt iconic, muss man sagen.
And this is a really tough one actually for me to judge because they have so much history and they're so influential. They nail that preppy American look. And the Lemtosh is, you know, arguably the most iconic frame. It was in my top 10.
Ja, also man muss sagen, die Lemtosh, also das ist die kleinere Version davon, habe ich auch zu Hause mit so durchsichtig, also mit so einem leichten Pinkton und Orange, sehr cool. Aber ich muss auch sagen, ich verstehe, wenn man sagt, ey, die Brand ist zu teuer, was man bekommt. Es gibt sehr viele gute Fakes davon.
Most iconic glasses of all time, and it's still so popular today. But the quality has gone down a lot because now they're mostly made in China. They're a legendary eyewear brand when it comes to status. But in terms of like, should you buy one in 2025? I'm going to say you should avoid it. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. I don't hate.
Ich würde sie eher in Maybe packen. Also weil das Coole ist bei Moscot, was ich finde, du kannst sie sehr cool individualisieren. Also du kannst sehr viel, wir müssen mal in den Laden gehen. Wir haben in Zürich einen Laden, da arbeitet ein Freund von mir, Shoutout Tizian. Ja, in dem Laden kann man so viel customizen, finde ich so geil, aber ich check schon, was er meint.
Moscot, I love them, but I would avoid buying Moscot personally right now. Annavella Tam.
Am besten kauft Secondhand Moscot. Da sind die Preise schon besser. Und ja, wenn ihr euch ein bisschen auskennt, dann findet ihr schon was.
I would buy. They make beautiful glasses. Let's definitely put Fast there as well. I think in the last few years, I've not seen either of those French brands really pushing any boundaries. I think they've kind of got a little bit stale in their offering, but I still would buy them. They're good quality, they're different. Etnia Barcelona, definitely avoid for me. This has become one of the biggest disappointments because Etnia Barcelona 10 to 15 years ago, when I started doing this, they were really making glasses cool. And it was beautiful to see because at that point, most people were wearing metal frames, and Etnia Barcelona did acetate really well in this kind of thinner acetate that was very popular. But I still think the quality is kind of average.
Kann ich auch nicht.
And for me, they don't do anything for me. There's no excitement about an Etnia Barcelona frame. So for me, avoid. Chanel. So this is the first definite Luxottica tier brand. Unlike Oakley, which they own outright, with Chanel and many other brands like it, they pay a license fee to Chanel to produce glasses with their logo on. And what you end up with are factories where they're producing lots of similar glasses, just with different brands at different prices. Krass. That doesn't sit right with me. Chanel is one.
Ja, ist echt krass. Also muss man sagen, dass Chanel das mitmacht, verstehe ich auch gar nicht.
One such example, and they are pretty trash, to be honest. We can also throw Jimmy Choo in there, we can throw Versace, I think they're probably the worst. I've not talked about True Vintage Revival on this channel before. They are a Japanese eyewear brand who make, vintage-esque frames, hence the brand name. And I think they do a pretty...
Boah, das ist eine schöne Brille auf jeden Fall. Sehr schön vom Design her. Geil.
good job of it. Now, as Japanese eyewear goes, I would put them middle to lower, which, don't get me wrong, is still exceptional because there's nothing wrong with them. The quality is good. The price point is great. They're good if you want good value Japanese eyewear. Porsche Design. So, a lot of people think that
Porsche Design. Generell Porsche Design noch nie drüber geredet. Finde ich, hat coolen Stuff, aber ist auch nicht das, wo ich jetzt die Zielgruppe bin, muss ich sagen.
Design is just a licensed brand like many others. It isn't. Porsche Design is a separate company set up by Ferdinand Porsche to redesign everyday products, from pens to laptops to glasses. And they do a pretty exceptional job of it, actually. I really like Porsche Design, the brand. I would buy them.
Porsche Design hat echt coole, so random Sachen. Ich hab letztens Nico, also InScope, habe ich ein Feuerzeug geschenkt von Porsche Design. Und muss man sagen, ist echt sehr gelungen. Also sehr schön verpackt, auch gute Qualität. Und
actually, if you like the style, good quality, good materials,
so ein Zigarrenfeuerzeug.
One that would appeal to an engineer or someone who's into that kind of semi-sporty aesthetic. Definitely way better than Oakley glasses for comparison, and they have a similar kind of fit. Flair, the inventors of rimless glasses. Last time I rated them as legendary because, well, they invented rimless glasses and they still make
ich kenne nur den einen Flair aus Deutschland.
Really high quality rimless glasses today. Now, I don't think
krass. Schön aber. Ja.
Out of 10 for
schöne Brille, schöne Brille.
Quality. But they are very innovative. And if you really want like ultra minimalistic rimless frames, for me Flair is the brand to look at. They make the best like invisible glasses, let's say. If you want glasses that just vanish from your face and don't feel like they're there, because they make the world's lightest frame as well. I think Flair deserve their ranking in the legendary tier, actually. Still a long way to go, and I hope you're having fun. If you are, hit that subscribe button. Let's talk Vuane, another brand that I've not talked about before, and it hasn't been intentional, I promise. When I compile these lists, I'm really working from memory. I don't work from a script or anything like that. So sometimes I just forget about a brand. But Vuane,
boah, krass Design, muss ich sagen. Also dieses Leder hier. Also auch ich bin jetzt nicht jemand, der diese Art von Brillen trägt oder tragen kann, weil dafür passen meine langen Haare nicht. Aber feiere ich.
A very historic French brand, have made in the past some of the world's best quality sunglasses. I still think they make exceptionally good quality, although they are owned by LVMH, which is a shame. They use glass lenses in their sunglasses as well, which is something to look out for. If you get sunglasses with glass lenses, first of all, they're optically purer, so you see more clearly through them. Second of all, you'll almost never scratch them, which is nice, as opposed to plastic lenses, which scratch pretty easy. Vuane, I would buy.
Krass, obwohl sie von LVMH geowned sind.
If you're shopping for classic sunglasses. Anglo-American Optical. Actually, one of my favorite brands to recommend. Anglo-American Optical is one of the oldest eyewear brands on the planet. Maybe it is the oldest. They're like 150 years old at this point, which is pretty impressive. Super affordable. They're like $200 or thereabouts, which is awesome. Assembled in England, but made in China. But that's not a bad thing. If you're shopping at that price point, it means you get really good quality for your money. I love their 406.
Man muss es immer sagen, meine Freunde, ich bin selber ein großer Fan von alten Brands. Ich finde es unglaublich schön, auch wenn ich drüber nachdenke, falls KPST irgendwann mal so alt wird. Also würde meine Brand 200 Jahre überleben und so in 4. Generation verkauft werden. Dann wäre krass, muss ich sagen, wäre krass. Aber auch hier muss ich sagen, so ich habe die rosa-rote Brille abgezogen. Ich finde, am Ende des Tages, das Produkt muss performen. Ganz simpel.
Frame, I think it's one of the most iconic round frames.
Auch wenn es 1000 Jahre alt ist.
At the price point, you can't beat them. Next up is LA Eyeworks. Now, we should pause for a moment. Guy Garardi, who for me is one of the greatest eyewear designers of all time.
Wild.
Unfortunately passed away this year. I had the pleasure of meeting her once, and she was a very down-to-earth, very lovely person. You can see the passion for what she did, not just in how she ran her business, because she's got such an amazing reputation as a wonderful, kind human being, but in the way that she designed her products. Her glasses, along with Barbara McReynolds, who also deserves a lot of praise, their glasses had so much character, maybe more character than any other brand ever. I've said before that LA Eyeworks are the best quality acetate frames you can buy, and I think they still are. If you look at the polishing on an LA Eyeworks frame, it is impeccable.
Ich muss sagen, spannende Brille, aber auch da bin ich nicht die Zielgruppe.
It's immaculate. It is as good as it could be. You can just see the love, passion that Guy Garardi brought to eyewear reflected in her frames, and I think she's a massive loss to the eyewear world. Her last designs before she passed away are being released this year, so this is the year to pick up a pair of LA Iwerks frames. And for me, they're easily in the legendary tier. When you look at some of the people that have modeled for LA Iwerks over the years, nobody can boast such a reputation as they have. Next up, Modo.
Ja, es sind schon wilde
So
Gesichter.
Modo are great if you're shopping for titanium or thin acetate frames, especially the Crystal series, which I reviewed earlier this year, on something of a budget. So if you want good value, like in the mid-range, and that mid-range is the hardest to buy in my experience. There's loads of brands that are in the higher end category. And there's some good brands in the budget category, but in the mid-range, there's not many that I would recommend. Modo is one. An Italian-based company.
Ja, schön. Also auf der Frau sitzt die weiße Brille sehr, sehr schön. Also attraktive Frau. Auch,
Nicely styled frames that are easy to wear. I definitely would consider buying them. Costa. So Costa makes some of the world's best sunglasses. I think that's fair to say. Although they are owned by Luxottica. Surprise, surprise. I mean, actually, that was a bit of a surprise when it happened. But look at it this way. Since Luxottica bought Costa, in what way have they improved? And this is a story that you hear again and again and again, which is really sad. And for me now, Costa are kind of falling behind. I personally would buy other sunglass brands over Costa, and I wouldn't have said that a few years ago.
Das ist für mich so diese klassische Brand, so du bist irgendwo im Urlaub und du hast so einen Bademeister, der halt deinen Job macht als Bademeister, und das ist für mich so eine Bademeister-Sonnenbrille. Check, was ich meine?
So yeah, Luxottica tier.
Oder so eine Surfer.
From Switzerland. We're not a stockist, but it's a brand that I would be really comfortable.
Gotti? Noch nie gehört, obwohl das aus der Schweiz ist.
Stocking and would definitely recommend people to buy. I don't think they do anything special enough to be in the legendary tier, but certainly would buy them. Cool, futuristic designs, interesting, different. They've carved their own niche.
Götti, nicht Gotti. Na klar, ist Amerikaner, macht die amerikanischen Fehler.
I like.
Oder das ist, glaube ich, ein Engländer. Ich kann es nicht sagen vom Akzent.
Bad word to say about Gotti, and
aber Engländer.
Yeah, I really highly recommend them actually. Portrait is another really underrated one of the most underrated brands. It's an interesting concept. They're designed with the art world in mind. So the owners of Portrait will look at an art piece or an art category, let's say, and they...
Verrückt, aber für mich too much. Ich respektiere sehr, wenn so eine Brand so diesen artsy Touch probiert zu finden, aber für mich, das ist too much. Also, auch wenn ich das sehen würde, es müsste schon eine sehr krasse Charakterfrau sein, damit sowas
design glasses
getragen werden
inspired
kann.
by that. I think that's quite cool, personally. I would buy Portrait. They're all limited edition as well. A really underrated brand that you should definitely check out if you are into your eyewear. Robert Laroche, the same. In fact, you know, Robert Laroche, I think, makes it into legendary for me. Robert Laroche are one of the best brands on the planet for both titanium and...
Kenne ich auch nicht, muss ich sagen. Robert Laroche.
They do both equally well. Very bold, very cool in that sense. You've got to have a lot of confidence to wear...
Oh, schön. Das ist eine sehr frische Brille. Boah, das ist eine sehr, sehr frische Brille, finde ich. Also ich habe schon mal das Design gesehen, aber sie sieht böse aus.
Robert Laroche frame, but if you have the confidence, go for it. For me, I personally prefer their design philosophy over other thicker acetate brands because they don't have any embellishments. What they do have is this beautiful carved bevel within the lens rim, which gives them this interesting three-dimensionality, and I think that is really cool. Plus, Robert Laroche is super historic. They've been worn by people like Marilyn Monroe and Andy Warhol, the coolest of the cool. Back in the 70s,
ja, das ist schon swaggy, wenn du sagen kannst, ey, meine Brand wurde von Andy Warhol getragen oder von Andy van Jonklöt. Kann man auch so sehen.
Laroche was all the rage. They're not quite as popular now, but they really should be more popular than they are. Most of their frames, which are made in Italy, are better than your average made in Japan frames, so that says a lot. Chloe, they've not really done anything to excite me recently. Personally, at the moment, I would avoid Chloe. They're not bad. They're made by Kering. Like, they're okay, but I don't see any reason now to buy a Chloe frame in 2025. Blackfin, however, have really impressed me recently, and I've rated these as overrated before. Would I buy them though? Because this is going to be a little bit like Makita, because if you're shopping for that look, maybe consider Blackfin, but the brand that you should absolutely get is Reykjavik Eyes. I'm not going to keep teasing you any longer. Reykjavik Eyes is personally my most recommended eyewear brand. I'm wearing them myself right now, so you know, that says it.
Ja, sieht schon fresh aus bei dem Jungen.
For me, they are the most comfortable glasses in the world. They're also the most durable glasses in the world. And I think they look cool in a minimalistic fashion. If you like this style, which I personally do, nothing beats them. This whole frame is constructed from a single sheet of laser cut beta titanium. That's the same titanium they use in aircraft. So you have no...
Krass. Was geht hier gerade ab? Shit, einfach Bein am Spreizen, die Brille.
No screws, you have no solder joints or welds. Put them straight back on my face and carry on with my...
Boah, sieht sehr krass, das war sehr krass gerade. Das war gerade sehr impressive.
Having glasses that are super, super, super practical is really important for a lot of people, even if they're not maybe the most stylish glasses. They won the Red Dot Design Award when they were released, and that's an unbiased multi-industry design award, so don't just take my word for it. Aconi. So Aconi was founded by the people who left Dita when they were purchased by a private equity fund, which is never something you want to hear because then it all becomes about profit. I love their homage to watchmaking. I think that's really cool. In terms of quality, I think they're really good, and it's nice that they're independent as well. Gast. Absolutely would buy, and I think eventually Gast are going to get into the legendary category. And the reason why I say that is because if they keep up this pace, every style they bring out is cool. Every style they bring out is great quality. And with their rimless series, they switched it up totally last year as well.
Ah, verrückt. Verrückt.
So you've got a brand that produces luxury looking rimless glasses and luxury looking frames, less than $200. It's insane. They look like glasses that cost $600. They are only a new company, which is why they can't get quite into the legendary tier, but on this list they are the...
Ihr habt's gehört, meine Freunde, wenn ihr Brille sucht, die 200 Euro kostet, aber aussieht wie eine 600 Euro Brille, jetzt habt ihr einen Geheimtipp. Gast, also krass, wusste ich auch nicht. Das ist das Schöne, man lernt neue Brands dazu. Also ich werde mir
best
einiges
value
merken.
of any brand, bar none. I will say, don't buy from them directly because their customer service does leave something to be desired, but you kind of expect that for the low price, and if you buy them through a distributor like us, you're going to at least get the customer service to back it up as well. So Gast, absolutely recommend. IC Berlin, recently purchased by Marcolin. That is not a good thing. Marcolin, in my opinion,
Noch nie gehört von der Brand.
don't make the best quality glasses, let's say. There's a intertwining history with Makita. Both brands have always been kind of neck and neck. IC Berlin work with steel as opposed to Makita with titanium. For me, I just don't see any reason to buy an IC Berlin frame, and they're a little bit outdated now. Randolph Engineering, you could also argue are outdated, but I would argue they are timeless and vintage. They make awesome sunglasses.
Ja, ist immer eine große Frage. Was ist halt Vintage oder so timeless und was ist halt outdated? Ja, da finde ich, spielen mehrere Kategorien rein in diese Frage.
And I absolutely would buy a Randolph Engineering frame. They've been featured in so many movies. If you see someone in a Hollywood film and they're a military person, people like that, they've always got Randolph Engineering frames, and you can tell them because of the hockey ends as they're known. It's iconic and it's cool, and the lenses are great quality. And you know what? For a US made sunglass brand, they're going to go in the legendary tier. More glasses should be made in America and places like that. One of my favorite brands that we don't sell is Hapta. These frames are made in North Italy, made from fabric. Really interesting construction where the fabric is pressed onto, I think it's steel. They're very lightweight, very flexible, and they have a totally unique aesthetic.
Ich finde es immer so krass, wenn halt, also generell, ich bin ein großer Engineering-Fan. Also ich finde, wenn auch in Mode so Engineering so eine Sache ist, finde ich es immer so faszinierend. Und auch hier, wie das so gerade konstruiert wird, dieser Stoff, was aufgepresst wird. Sieht krass aus.
This just stops short of legendary. Number one, not that old.
Sehr geil gemacht. Ich check, was er meint. Sehr, sehr geil gemacht.
And number two, I don't think they're quite special enough, even though I love them.
Boah, die sehen schon fresh aus.
To be in the legendary tier. A brand that absolutely does belong in legendary is Jacquemus March.
Seht ihr, meine Freunde? Wenigstens ist Jacquemus March bei legendary.
This is a company that's kind of, I don't want to say revolutionized eyewear, but they've pushed the industry forward. I think they're really responsible for a whole new wave of eyewear collectors who just wouldn't be into glasses otherwise. Yeah. I give them massive credit for that. I love them for that. Jerome Jacquemus March founded the company around about 10 years ago. Well, it's almost exactly 10 years because they just released the Decade Collection.
Ja, krass eigentlich, wie jung die Brand ist. 10 Jahre ist nicht viel, meine Freunde.
And they make limited edition, made in Japan frames to the highest standard of quality.
Ja.
Whether you like the aesthetic is a different matter. For me, they're a little bit too bold, just personally, although I love their titanium frames. And they're unmistakable. And so many other brands have tried to rip them off.
Ja, es ist schön zu hören, dass Jacquemus March hier gelobt wird. Weil ich bin ein großer Jacques-Fan. Ich habe selber wahrscheinlich 8 oder 10 Paar Jacques zu Hause und habe die Brand auch sehr gerne.
Copy them, which is sad. But Jacquemus March, in 10 years, have made it into the elite tier, the legendary category. Chopard, ja. Swiss jewelry brand. Whereabouts do we put Chopard?
Chopard, krass.
I think if you like their
Chopard ist, ja, macht auch gute Uhren, muss man sagen.
Aesthetic, which is kind of like a little bit brash, a little bit ornate, then you should maybe consider them.
Krass. Ich wusste nicht mal, dass die Brillen machen, aber ja, jetzt weiß ich's.
Isn't my vibe. I guess I'm not the target market. I do like Chopard as a brand, by the way, but their frames are licensed to...
Also Chopard macht sehr krasse Jewelry auf jeden Fall. Also ist schon bekannt dafür. Auch die Uhren sind sehr schön, muss ich sagen.
A company called Dorigo. and they're kind of average, but Chopard have improved a lot over the last year, and that's the only reason they make it into the maybe tier. Barton Pereira, okay, this is going to be the hardest one, because if I'm being objective about it, they possibly belong in Legendary. So let me tell you the story of Barton Pereira. There's another brand on this list, Oliver Peoples. Let's put them in Luxottica because they're a Luxottica brand. Their heritage is really cool because they built their brand up from almost nothing to being one of the most valuable eyewear brands in the world with their
Oliver
own retail
Peoples.
stores. That's always a sign that a brand has done very well when they have their own actual locations. And the story goes that the founders of Oliver Peoples actually purchased a huge container of surplus frames which they rebranded and sold. That's how their company got started. And the name on that box was Oliver People, hence the brand name was born. And it's kind of a cool story. But anyway, Luxottica purchased them, let's just say. Well, actually, they purchased Oakley, and Oakley at that point owned Oliver Peoples. It's all a bit convoluted. But at that point, the senior people within Oliver Peoples, Bill Barton and Patty Pereira, left because they didn't want to work for Luxottica and founded an independent eyewear brand of their own, which was called Barton Pereira from their names. And they went on to make some of the best quality acetate frames in Japan. They have timeless American style. It's very preppy. Recently, they absolutely rose to massive fame because their eyewear was chosen by the costume designers for No Time to Die, the last James Bond movie with Daniel Craig. And he looked awesome in his sunglasses, as you would expect, as Barton Pereira are seriously...
Ich habe so Spaß dran gerade an dem Video, weil es so eine Nische, wo ich mich echt nicht super gut auskenne und ich höre gerade so viele Informationen, die sonst niemals in meinen Kopf reinkommen würden. Deswegen auch hier, like auch meine Freunde, für mehr solche
Following that, they were purchased by Louis Vuitton, and that's where issues started to happen in terms of service. But the quality so far has remained the same. I don't think it's fair to say they're legendary anymore because they're not independent. And that lack of independence, trust me, is going to hurt them sooner rather than later. I've seen it all before. But I still would buy them if you like their style and you want good quality and you don't care about the politics behind it, absolutely buy them. Chrome Hearts, another interesting one. So they have their own totally unique aesthetic with sterling silver, and I love the fact that they work with sterling silver. And if you're into their look, they do it better than anyone.
Ja, also ganz kurz zu Chrome Hearts Brillen. Problem ist aber Chrome Hearts Brillen, die sind sehr, sehr teuer. Also wir reden hier von, die günstigen sind so 1200, 400, das sind wirklich die günstigen, die teuren, die wirklich coolen sind so 2000. Und ich bin ein großer Chrome Hearts Fan, also ich finde die Brand cool. Ich selber habe eine eigene Schmuckbrand im Silberbereich und ist immer, ich finde so, es gibt keine Konkurrenz. So. Ich finde, wir profitieren so, man profitiert nur voneinander, wenn man es richtig macht. Und deswegen muss ich sagen, auch Chrome Hearts Brillen sehr, sehr schön, aber zum einen schwer zu bekommen, zum anderen, ja, Preis ist schwer zu bekommen, aber wenn man genug Geld hat und weiß, wo kaufen, dann würde ich nur Chrome Hearts tragen von den Brillen her, 100%.
Few brands have carved out a niche like Chrome Hearts, and I'm very tempted to put them into the legendary tier. They're super heavy and, to be honest, very impractical and uncomfortable, but it's not just all about function.
Die sind echt stabil, schwer und unkomfortabel. Aber ich habe auch 4 Paar, glaube ich, Chromies. Und die sind schon sehr cool von den Details.
Sometimes it's about form, and stylistically, I'm going to leave them in legendary. I think they're really cool. T. Henry. I've been really on the fence about T. Henry. So this is a brand from Florida, says something in and of itself, that has really emulated the Jacques-Marie Mage business model. Now, I'm not saying that they're completely derivative, just like...
Ja, doch, sehen schon aus wie eine Kopie von Jacques, so ein bisschen.
90% derivative. And that annoys me. I'm going to say avoid because I don't see any reason to buy a T. Henry frame. Just buy a JMM, buy a Robert Laroche if you want a chunky acetate that's really good. Bottega Veneta is one of the nicest fashion brands. They're made by Kering. I think they're seriously like interesting and stylish. I love the finishing on the frames. You know what? I would buy Bottega Veneta.
Ja, ich finde auch witzigerweise Bottega Veneta rein vom Styling her und von der Qualität, also auch in Japan gemacht, super.
It's a brand that is pretty niche as well, which appeals to me. Gucci, at the moment, if I'm being frank, I would avoid them in favour of some of the other brands. Tom Ford, meanwhile, while we're talking about fashion brands, Tom Ford, in my opinion, is one of the worst quality designer brands.
Ja, das muss man sagen. Also Tom Ford echt keine gute Qualität. Aber ich liebe halt Tom Ford.
And I hate Tom Ford. I challenge you to find a Tom Ford frame which has that really obnoxious T that comes around the front. It's not even just a logo on the side, but it comes around the front because you want everyone to know who's talking to you that you're wearing a Tom Ford frame. I challenge you to find one where the temple and the front actually line up in such a way that that line is continuous. And if it is, that just means you've not owned them long enough. One of those brands that people just think they're getting a luxury product and they're getting anything but. There's so many brands you should buy before Tom Ford. And yet you see these really wealthy, influential people wearing it.
Ja, ist halt Branding. Branding gut gemacht, muss man sagen.
No, Tom Ford are not even a Luxottica product. They're going right in the bottom corner of the Luxottica
Krass.
tier.
Der Tom Ford is crazy.
Silhouette is another brand that annoys me. I just think their styles are so basic, boring. Is there any personality to Silhouette? And to be honest, you know, they're an innovative brand. Well, they were an innovative brand. Two of my personally most hated brands just came in a row. So let's get the negativity out of the way. Oh, Tiffany. Trash. Tiffany you would think would be really high-end.
Krass, wusste nicht mal, dass Tiffany Brillen macht.
Tiffany is a high-end brand, right? But the glasses are so plasticky. I actually used them in my acetate comparison video as an example of a poor acetate quality. Morel, meanwhile. So Morel, I think are good quality. Again, a bit like Silhouette, just a bit dull. Another very, very, very old eyewear brand. But have they done anything interesting recently to make you want to buy them? I just don't see the point in them nowadays. That's been a pretty negative few minutes, so let's talk about something positive. One of the best new brands that I've discovered, if not the best new brand I discovered in the last year or so, is Esmont. Yannis, first of all, is the coolest, nicest, most lovely guy who's really doing this for the right reasons. He wants to make the best quality frames, and he's extremely self-critical, to a point where I have to keep telling him, look, Yannis.
Ja, krass, ich kenne die Brillen, ich zum ersten Mal diese Brillenbrand.
Your product is amazing, and he doesn't feel that way. He feels like it should be a lot better, which when you have someone like that, you know they're going to go in the right direction. So I really like that about him. As for the product right now, it's a really cool story. So he's a pilot himself. He loves aviation and flying, and you can feel that because I've been flying with him. And he's a second generation pilot. His father was a pilot before. So he's used his interest in aviation to inspire his eyewear collection. Now, what do planes and glasses have in common? When he took me on a tour of the Aviation Museum, it totally made sense. When you see those old planes, the way they were constructed, the rivets, the details.
Coole Geschichte, feiere ich sehr sowas.
The lacquer on the metal. He's used all of those elements and he's designed an eyewear collection that's not like anything else. If you're looking for a real luxury eyewear brand that's made in extremely limited quantities, you're not going to see somebody else with it. Comes in amazing packaging, as good packaging as you could ever want. And you're actually supporting a true independent artisan whose heart is in the right place. Esmont is awesome. In the future, I have no doubt that if he keeps working, he's going to be in the legend.
Wie schon gesagt, für mich das Schönste, was es gibt, sind eigentlich so kleine Independent Brands, wo du was bekommst, was einzigartig ist, und das ist der Grund, wieso man Geld ausgibt am Ende des Tages, finde ich so. Wenn man was Einzigartiges hat, was einem richtig gefällt und man weiß, ey, das ist Top-Qualität.
Category. For now, he's at the top of Woodbuy. Meanwhile, Marcus Marienfeld.
Was ist das für eine Brand?
Interesting guy. And by that, I mean, he's probably the only person in eyewear that I personally have fallen out with. And well, he fell out with me. Now, he makes really, really, really good glasses. And I really want to be a proponent for him. I wanted to be a stockist. But dealing with him is just so painful. Now, it might be different for you.
Was ist das denn für eine Brand? Marcus Marienfeld AG. Noch nie gehört, außer Schweiz.
As a consumer, if you can make it up to his workshop in the Alps, he will hand make you a frame from buffalo horn or titanium to your exact measurements. I would maybe consider Marcus Marienfeld. If you want something custom in titanium or horn, just don't try to contact him through me. Nervan Javan, really interesting brand from Switzerland actually. Decent value.
Candy brand. Ist okay, ist
kind
okay.
of in the mid-range again, a little bit like Modo. If you want like stylish frames that are well made, that's a brand to keep an eye on as well. I think I can anticipate big things from them. Let's place Ivan. One of the better quality Japanese eyewear brands. They make beautiful frames. I think they just stopped short of legendary. And I can't really put my finger on why, because the quality is best of the best. It is really good quality. I think they just stopped short
Schöne
of legendary.
Brille.
And I can't
ich finde die Details sehr schön. Also die Details sind auch hier sehr gelungen. Also ihr dürft nicht vergessen, eine Brille ist ultra klein. Also das ist hier vielleicht so 2 Millimeter, wenn nicht sogar weniger. Um solche Details zu bekommen, nicht 2 Millimeter, ein halber Zentimeter. Um solche Details zu bekommen, ist echt nicht einfach.
Why? Because the quality is best of the best. It is really good quality. But stylistically, I don't think they do enough. I don't think any of their styles are special enough to make them legendary, and the quality can only take you so far. Maui Jim, meanwhile, I think you should maybe consider in 2025. If you want good value sunglasses, well, good value doesn't do them justice. They are still great frames and even better lenses. Some of the best sunglass lenses in the world, and you can still get Maui Jims with glass lenses. Not all of them, but some of the models. They've been acquired by Kering as well. Kering are really going all out to buy these independent eyewear brands. To be fair, Kering have actually done a little bit of a good job with Maui Jim because they've made them more stylish, which was desperately needed.
Cool.
However, all these other brands are improving at a greater pace than Maui Jim, and they're being caught up and in some cases superseded. So at the moment, I would maybe consider.
Also ich muss auch sagen, ich bin selber überrascht, wie viele Brillenbrands es gibt und wie viele ich davon nicht kannte. Also sehr, sehr cool. Also feiere ich übertrieben gerade.
If you want off-the-shelf sunglasses which are polarized with beautiful color-enhancing lenses, there's no reason not to buy them. Eco Eyewear is one of the best value brands in the world. And I'm just going to say maybe because they're good from a style perspective and also especially from the fact that they come with a magnetic sun clip. I reviewed them in Morocco earlier this year and honestly if they were my glasses I would be happy. $200 thereabouts with a sun clip included. You can't beat them for value.
Ah, cool. Also ich finde generell Brillen cool, die so einen Clip haben. Ich finde, das ist sehr swag.
And they're very comfortable, but they're just not. Like Gast is like really, really good quality. Eco is just kind of average quality. Having said that, they did step it up this year with their newer collection. Linda Farrow. I'm not sure if I've talked about Linda Farrow before, but it's actually a brand that I have a huge amount of respect for. I think she's an amazing designer. Her glasses look so luxurious, and they are. They're very expensive, all titanium, all gold-plated. I would buy Linda Farrow.
Ja, es gab mal, glaube ich, eine Linda Farrow Raf Simons Collab. So habe ich von der Brand, so habe ich die Brand kennengelernt, Linda Farrow. Ja, ist aber sehr teuer auch.
I would personally love to own a Linda Farrow frame, and I would love to be a stockist. We're getting close to the end now. How are these last few brands going to fare? Well, let's tidy up a little.
Sind noch ein paar spannende Brands dabei.
Luxottica. Yeah. Not the worst Luxottica, but average.
Ja, eben Prada. Muss sagen, cool vom Design her, aber kann man skippen, zu teuer.
Luxottica. Ray-Ban and Persol. I'm here to tell you that there is no reason to buy Ray-Ban anymore. They used to be the best. Well, they used to be in the best category of sunglasses. Go back to the 80s. Those old Ray-Bans.
Krass eigentlich, also diese alten Ray-Bans.
Made in America were built like a tank. But they were acquired by Luxottica, an Italian company, who shifted all the manufacturing out of America, increased the price and reduced the quality. I know it's like the go-to eyewear brand. It's like Coca-Cola, it's like McDonald's. It's ubiquitous. And I get it. I understand why people think that Ray-Ban means glasses. But if you're actually thinking about this, and if you're watching this video, you probably are thinking about it, there's no reason to buy Ray-Ban. I'm going to put Persol in maybe.
Ja, Ray-Ban, muss man sagen, das Einzige, was cool ist bei Ray-Ban, ist so die Innovation. Also ich fand diese neuen Brillen mit den Kameras recht cool, auch für mich als Content Creator, aber sonst kann man auch skippen. So. Klar, diese Klassiker wie diese Pilotenbrillen, sind Klassiker, aber gibt heutzutage so viel Besseres für das Geld.
Even though they're owned by Luxottica, they are made in a different factory. Their acetate frames are good, their glass lenses are pretty good. They're not exceptional like Persol collectors seem to think. Yes, they used to be. They have so much history. They're cool. I like the brand. I give respect to Persol. I love the branding. I think that's way cooler than Tom Ford, for example, even though it's kind of similar. I like Persol as a brand, but it's Luxottica owned, it's not improved at all, and like I said, meanwhile, all these other brands are pushing the boundaries. Lindbergh is interesting, so I generally have a lot of hate for Lindbergh because it's a brand that snobby opticians love. So you'll see these high-end stores, they all seem to stock Lindbergh. It's like keeping up appearances, and I've never been in that crowd of opticians. I like stuff that's different. Lindbergh are good quality though, and they were
Kenn ich nicht, die
Brand.
Brand.
A family-owned Danish company made by appointment to the Royal Court of Denmark. I think they're rimless frames and
oh, aber schön. Also das sieht schön aus.
Now series, I think they leave so much to be desired. However, this comes with a huge caveat. Because if you want a solid gold frame, if you want a buffalo horn frame, for me, Lindbergh is the brand to get. They still produce those in-house. Despite the fact they're now owned by Kering again, they're still producing their frames in their own facility in Denmark. They are, I believe, the only company making solid gold frames in-house. So, maybe consider Lindbergh if you're looking for solid gold or buffalo horn. Tavat is a really cool brand. Definitely, you know, I would buy Tavat. I love them actually. Their soup can design is mad, but actually cool and wearable. Love the construction of that. If you're shopping for a pair of sunglasses and the lenses are your priority, Tavat should absolutely be in the equation. They're not quite legendary yet. They're a bit too new. I think they're only about 6-7 years old. Could be legendary in the future. I'm a fan. Definitely would buy Tavat. Made in Italy as well. Walter & Herbert, made in the UK. I maybe would consider them, especially their limited edition pieces like the Churchill frame called the Chartwell. It was actually modelled on Winston Churchill's actual own glasses because the own...
Verrückt. Geile Brille auf jeden Fall. Das ist eine swaggy Brille, meine Freunde.
Owner of Walter & Herbert owns those frames, which is a cool story. They make good quality but not great quality acetate frames here in the UK. They have a cool story because the founders of Walter & Herbert were the inventors of the machine that actually puts a metal core into an acetate frame. So you've got to give them credit, they've got a lot of history. Le Curie is the smallest scale brand that we work with. And Leo has done a tremendous job, actually. His frames are made in Japan, all gold-plated. They have fantastic Zeiss lenses. They use LightPro technology, which is a semi-polarized lens. It gives you all the advantages of polarized without the disadvantages. I want to see more brands using LightPro technology. It's, yeah, like I said, super niche, and I think
krasses Video, krasses Beispiel.
it's nice to support a brand like that, someone who's trying to be really innovative. His Leo frame, by the way, was my sunglasses of the year for 2024. You should definitely check that one.
Ja, schön gemacht. Check ich auf jeden Fall.
Okay, we're left with accidentally some of my favorite eyewear brands in the world. Let's talk Masanaga.
Masanaga, okay.
Legendary tier. Not just for their quality, which is the best. I think they make the best quality frames in the world, especially their Master of Craft, and to a lesser extent their K3 design with Kenzo Takeda, the famous founder of Kenzo. The quality, the craftsmanship, the beautiful attention to detail of Masanaga, it is extraordinary. Amazing from every angle. It's a pair
Ja, ich check auf jeden Fall den Vibe, aber wäre jetzt auch nicht so mein
glasses that you can own. You can look over every detail and just see gorgeous beauty.
Schön, sehr schön.
Beauty in every element of them. I could wax lyrical about Masanaga all day, but the best thing about Masanaga is that they transformed the eyewear industry. 100 years ago, well, more than that actually, they founded their family-owned company and they set up a guild of optical craftsmen where they actually taught the Japanese artisans to make frames to a high standard. You see, back then, Japanese manufacturing was considered on par with China, i.e. mass-produced, low quality. Fast forward 100 years and Japanese eyewear manufacturing is the pinnacle of quality. That's all down to Masanaga.
Ja, generell, also Made in Japan ist eigentlich in jeder Nische, auch Linsen. Das sind die einzigen Linsen, die man für Kameras wirklich gebrauchen kann. Also finde ich, sind alle in Japan gemacht. Also klar, es gibt auch da ein paar Länder, die hier hochkommen, aber Japan muss man sagen, Japan ist super, super, super in jeder Hinsicht.
And all these other Japanese eyewear brands, well, I don't want to say all of them, but many of the people who work in them, they originate from that guild of craftsmen that Masanaga started. Maybe the most legendary brand, to be fair. You could make that case. Maybe you would consider Maybach. Maybe if you want Cartier, but don't actually want Cartier specifically. Personally, I would avoid them. Matsuda.
Maybach Music, ja, Maybach als Auto, also rein von der Legende, also zusammen mit der Mercedes halt diese Autos, geisteskrank cool, die S-Klassen, aber ja, ich finde die Brillen auch sehr pompös meistens.
Okay, so this is a tough one. Matsuda is another Japanese eyewear brand, not as influential as Masanaga.
Aber das ist auch so eine Brille, da muss man so ein kleiner Japaner sein, mit so einem kleinen Kopf, wahrscheinlich noch Glatze, damit das fresh aussieht. Check das, was ich meine?
No front? Every month almost, they're improving. You see new models coming out from Matsuda and they're just getting better and better and better. So they combine that craftsmanship that we just talked about with Masanaga, albeit not to the same extent, but close, because the quality is definitely not as good, but with more style and with a bit more artistry. You know what? I'm actually going to put Matsuda in legendary. I think they're awesome. Never had a Matsuda frame with issues, so they're established now as a legendary eyewear brand. Cazal. Absolute instant legendary tier, the most inspirational brand, because Cary Zaloni, whose name was made to form Cazal, he created Cazal after being a designer for Dior. He set up his own independent
Krass, ich kann die Geschichte von Cazal nicht.
Eyewear brand, and I think it was the first fully independent fashion eyewear brand. He nailed it. He came out with this aesthetic which defined 80s fashion. And still, that 607 frame, his original design, is still one of the most iconic eyewear designs 50 years later. We owe a lot to Cazal because they made glasses cool. The way that Jacques-Marie Marge are doing it now, Cazal did that back in the 80s. Then we have Cartier, and again, I'm thinking about it. Cartier are absolutely a legendary eyewear brand. They're a brand in and of themselves.
Muss sagen, Cartier einfach war nie so meine. Also ich haben schöne Brillen, keine Frage, aber ich habe immer bei Cartier diesen leichten Rapper-Stempel. Wisst ihr, was ich meine so? Vielleicht nur bei mir gerade.
They're a jewelry brand, so usually when a brand is good at other things, they're not the best at glasses, because usually the glasses are licensed. In this case, Cartier still makes their frames in-house, and the quality has not gone down even since being acquired by Kering. They're kind of like a subsidiary of Kering. They still act like an independent brand to a degree. And their designs are timeless and iconic, which I love.
Ja, Designs sind echt, wenn man die Proportionen im Gesicht dafür hat, können die echt schon sehr fresh kommen.
You can own a Cartier frame, and it's not a trendy frame, but it still looks beautiful and classy. And you can own it for 10 years, and it will still look beautiful and classy. You can own it for 30 years, and it won't look dated. And the proof is in the pudding, because I have clients who have Cartier frames Go back 40 years and you can still buy frames like that within the Cartier collection in 2025. What other brand can you say that about? Well, apart from Cazal. And customizing Cartier, having something made bespoke in Cartier, which is something we specialize in, is a special moment in your life when you get your first Cartier customized with just the
schön, geil gemacht mit dem Panther.
Right shape, the facets, the tint, the photochromic, and most special eyewear in the world. However, Luca de Stale, for everything that I've just said about Cartier, if you ask me which one I want to own, it would be Luca de Stale. Luca de Stale is the most probably underrated brand on the planet. And if you think you're a glasses collector, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't own a Luca de Stale frame. Because they're the only brand in the world making glasses from leather. Yes, leather. Whether it's cow leather, iguana leather, goat leather, stingray leather, you can choose the material.
Aber da muss doch was Hartes drin sein, oder sonst würde das ja nicht halten. Also, oder waxen die das?
Material, the color. You can even have your glasses made in stone. They also work with stone.
Krass, einfach auf Stein, das ist wild.
Anyway, these exceptional materials are not just for style. They're so much more comfortable than an acetate, a plastic frame. Fundamentally, acetate is plastic. No matter how good it is, no matter how much it's polished, you're still wearing a piece of plastic on your face. Think about that compared to leather. Imagine wearing plastic shoes compared to leather shoes.
Ja, das ist ein schwieriger Vergleich, mein Bro, aber ich check,
no comparison. And nothing compares to Luca de Stale frames. When you consider all factors, comfort, durability and style, Luca de Stale are the best glasses in the world. What do you think of my tier list?
Ja, krass, sehr, sehr spannend, viel gelernt, meine Freunde. Like, Abo und bis zum nächsten Mal. Peace out.